All In for ALS, a star-studded event with some of the biggest names you've seen. All in for Jonesy's game. Bob Jones, and there's DJ Smith, who's going to join us, and there you see the emotional reaction of his assistant coach. A assistant for the Sens since the start of the 2019-20 season, and now battling ALS, two-time Mem Cup winner with the Windsor Spitfires. I'm sitting next to a Spitfire alum. He was the associate coach. Now let's bring on the head coach who helped arrange this game. DJ Smith joining us. We're not going to celebrate your greatness as an NHL coach. I'm going to celebrate your greatness for putting this together. It says a lot about the way you feel about your assistant coach. How did it come together?
Well, you know what? Since his diagnosis, we wanted to do something special. And I think the traditional is the golf tournament, maybe a poker game. I just thought, what is the one thing Jonesy is always loved? Clearly it's hockey, but he also doesn't want to put the players out. And I think that was what was in mind when we decided to do this game. It's just a couple hours. It's a little bit of the guy's time, but also an opportunity for a lot of our ex-players to come back and then get the city of Windsor involved, which has always, been supportive of not only just hockey, but all the charities here. It was for, and it wasn't just for the Windsor ALS, it was for Sunnybrook, and we raised a lot of money.
So at what point during this, putting this thing together, I mean, I'm blown away at some of the numbers you see in this and just the support that it received. We saw Bob's emotions there when you guys came walking out. Did it hit you at some point? Like, wow, this is incredible. Everyone jumping to this.
Yeah, it did. And really emotional watching him. And here's a guy that's, coached over 20 years in the OHL, finally got his chance in the NHL, and how many games he's been around. And for us to sell that thing out in the middle of the summertime, speaks volumes of the Windsor Spitfire ownership who, took on all the cost of the game day operations. And I can't say enough about my good buddy, Bob Bugner, and what he did, organizing away from the event with his family, his parents. A lot of people put a lot of time into this, but it was special to see the amount of people come out and the amount of texts we've gotten the last couple of days that, the kids enjoyed it, people enjoyed it. Just to have hockey again in the middle of the summer was perfect.
Over $200,000 raised and just huge names coming together. We see Pete DeBoer there. It's a rabid hockey area, but this is about the impact that Jones has had. For those that haven't met him, his reputation is just sterling. How would you describe him?
Well, he loves the boys, and he likes to joke, and he likes to tell stories, and the guys like to listen to him. That's the hardest part of this is, his speech has been very impacted. First, that's the first thing that's kind of went with him. Just to watch him, battle through this and how tough he is for his family and his kids really is something else. And to say, we talked about some of the people that came out, our captain, Brady Tkachuk, the captain of the Detroit Red Wings, Dylan Larkin, had a wedding and found a way to sneak it in. So, he only knows Boogie through the, being an assistant coach there. He didn't know Bob Jones. It just shows you, to me, the hockey world, how people stick together when we need it.
One of the moving things, too, I was kind of reading about this, and Bob says, it's not about me, it's about finding a cure. Can you point some of the viewers here and what they can do or where they can go to contribute in any way that they can?
Yeah, you go right on the Sunnybrook site, ALS Sunnybrook, and you can donate. But, there's a lot of local federations as well, depending on where you're from. And I think this ALS, obviously Lou Gehrig's disease, and, maybe we didn't know enough about it, but I think watching Borje Salming, come out to center ice and then, eventually pass away, and Chris Snow in Calgary, I think it's hitting a little more home, especially for hockey. And then, for me, it's the first experience of anyone I've known that's had it. It's a tough disease, and you wouldn't wish that on anyone, but if there's a guy for the job to raise enough money to find a way to fix this, in any way, it's Bob Jones, and the way he's fought through this and showed no, fatigue whatsoever. When it comes to being ready for events, clearly there is fatigue, but when there's time to shine, Jonesy's been there.
And we show that moment where it really hits him emotionally? What was it like for you to be alongside him for that moment?
Well, we've been friends for such a long time. You know, we've won together, we've grown together. I think we've done, you know, we've created a real special group in Ottawa when it comes to our young guys and our core group of players. You know, and I'd be, you know, I'd have to name, you know, so many of them that have been there, even the guys that aren't there now that have created this. And just to see how emotional he was, you know, just to see the amount of people that come out. I think everyone, you know, has their own friends and what have you, but to see 6,100 fans, you know, the last time us three, me, Boogie, and Jonesy had that, you know, would have been the OHL finals before winning our second Memorial Cup, and to stand there one more time with those guys was special.
Can you talk about, you just kind of mentioned there, the camaraderie with you guys, but just how special it is in our sport, right? Like, you've been around the game a long time, played the game for a long time. And in this process of organizing this, do you have any stories? I know you mentioned the Dylan Lark one already. Just how guys will, it's a competitive sport, it's a tough sport, but guys got each other's backs, and I that gives me goosebumps thinking about that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, one of my good friends is Paul McFarland. I coached with him in Seattle. Right away, he asked Matty Berniers, and Matty Berniers, you know, the rookie of the year, found a way to go out there and play, and you know, he doesn't know Bob. And it's just, to me, you know what, we owe every one of those guys, you know, for coming out there. You know, the probably, you know, outside of those names I mentioned, Josh Norris was there for us. DeBrincat was there. But probably the biggest, you know, name, former Spitfire, besides Adam Henrique and Taylor Hall, was Sergachev. And he come a long way to be there. You know, he was a part of everything right to the end. And, you know, and a lot of these guys right away, yes, I'm in. And, you know, it's so easy to come up with an excuse. And it's also, it's not just an excuse. There's plenty of guys got weddings, and there's guys that wanted to be there. But for a lot of these guys to drop this, you know, right away is something else.
How about the numbers? Over $200,000 raised, and that doesn't include the auction, which you know that number is going to skyrocket too. Any surprise to you, following up on Rupper's point, the way that hockey comes together to support this?
Well, what was amazing is how right away we sold the suites out, and then the tickets went out. And then, you know, we had a lot of people in town buying tickets and handing them out to, you know, schools, you know, summer schools, programs, soccer. We just thought it was outstanding that in the middle of the summer that this amount of people could come out, and you know, we weren't sure how it was going to go. We were hoping for 4,000 people. We sold every package, the coaches package to, you know, like I said, the suites, but there was other packages where you can meet certain coaches, you know, like Pete DeBoer and Mike Babcock, Derek Lalonde from the Red Wings. There was a lot of guys here, and a lot of people stepped up in Windsor. And, you know, I've been here for my whole life, so I've seen it. A lot of people don't know, but people take care of each other here, much like a lot of other communities.
No, just a little thing to mention there. You mentioned Brady Tkachuk was there. He's the captain of your squad. Can you maybe even transition us back to some Ottawa conversation? What is he? It just seems like he's growing up so fast and taking on this leadership so well, even just on the day-to-day hockey stuff. Can you talk about Brady Tkachuk and his maturity?
Yeah, he has. I mean, I had him when he was a young kid, and, you know, I think part of it when you're a young kid is you got to make sure you're good enough, and he had to work on his game every day. Now he knows, you know, he continues to work on his game, but he works on his leadership. The amount of things he does behind the scenes with young kids and disabilities, and a lot of people don't see, he takes a lot of time, you know, for those kids. And so does a lot of the players on our team. There's, you know, they all do a really good job. Thomas Chabot and Timmy and Drake, you know, they go out of their way for these guys. And clearly Brady, you know, is one of those guys. You know, the one thing is I think a lot of people talk, you know, about Walt Tkachuk and his treatment of people. He flew in day of the game just to be here. And you know, I mean, to me, I've heard stories on how he took care of trainers and how he took care of the little guy, you know, his whole career. Clearly, he's passed that down to his kids.
The Babcock coaching tree well represented at this event. What did it mean to you to have Mike Babcock there, one of the biggest names in coaching history in the National Hockey League? Boy, did the big names come out for this one.
No, they really did. And you know what? Mike's a good guy. He's the one who gave me my opportunity in the National Hockey League. He was hard on me but he taught me so much. And, you know, I had his son, you know, came and helped out a little bit at the end of last year. But, you know, when it comes to these things, it was a yes right away. Pete DeBoer, yes right away. You know, and it was just good. We had a nice coach's room. Guys could talk. You know, Boogie had a lot of the Red Wing staff there. You know, we had a lot of former guys come back: Rocky Thompson, Steve Ott, Mike Weber, Trevor Letowski. So, you know, those guys got on the bench. But it really is something else, you know, to see these guys, you know, come back and, you know, look up to those guys that have already done it. You know, Babs and Pete have made, you know, or been in the league and, you know, a long time and won a lot of games. The rest of us are trying to be that. And, you know, surely we asked a lot of questions.
Jonesy's game got all the deserved attention, and we want to salute you for what you did. Thanks so much for joining us to talk about this.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on, guys. But again, I can't say enough. You know, clearly Bob Jones is going to fight this thing. But I can't say enough about my good buddy Bob Boughner and what he did in this as well.
That's fantastic. Thanks so much.